My first warning was the sound of expensive brakes screaming on gravel. I was standing in the doorway of the old mountain cabin, one hand on the frame, the other holding a 5-gallon gas can. The well pump had just coughed and died again. The air smelled like cold metal, wet dirt, and fresh-cut pine. Up here, the mountain usually sounded like wind and trees. Today it sounded like trouble. A black SUV slid sideways into my short driveway and stopped too close to the porch. It did not belong on this ridge. The paint was too clean, the tires too pretty. The engine hummed like it had never seen a real winter. The woman who stepped out looked like she knew she didn't belong here either, but she was too proud to show it. She wore a baseball cap pulled low, dark hair loose under it, a white tank under an open flannel shirt. A big duffel bag hung off one shoulder. The bag looked heavy. She looked like she'd carried heavier things than that in her life. She took a long look at the cabin, at me, at the snowbank that had swallowed half my truck tire. "You're Beck Blackwood?" she asked. "Depends who's asking," I said. She adjusted her grip on the strap. The leather creaked in the cold. "Elena Corvus, the Trust sent me." The Trust, just a short word on paper, but it had teeth. The Corvus Family Trust owned this land, this cabin, and the long list of repairs I was working through. They paid me to keep the place from falling into the trees. I stared past her at the SUV. Tinted windows. Engine still running. Someone was watching us from inside. "Elena," I said, "your driver can turn around. This road is a dead end." Her jaw tightened. "He's not my driver." "Then he can still turn around," I said. She didn't look back. She didn't have to. The SUV rolled back a few feet, then stopped at the bottom of the drive like it planned to judge us from there. She exhaled slowly through her nose, trying to keep control. "My family dumped me here to learn a lesson," she said. I set the gas can down. My gloves squeaked on the metal. "What lesson?" I asked. She looked at the cabin again. Her eyes paused on the rotten corner log and the sagging gutter. "That I can't buy my way out of problems," she said. I looked at her clean city shoes, at the SUV that cost more than my last 3 winters, at the fancy duffel that did not match this snow and wood. "Then here's the first rule," I said. "You don't break your neck in my snow." Blackwood Ridge sits high enough that storms make their own rules. Phones lie. Forecasts guess. The mountain decides. The cabin wasn't mine, not on paper. It belonged to the Corvus Trust. The trustees hired me to winterize, replace rotten logs, fix the well pump, and patch the roof before the next blizzard sealed us in. I'd been living out of my truck in the mudroom for a week, sleeping in a bag that smelled like diesel and smoke. Elena stepped onto the porch like she'd never walked on wood that could move under her weight. "You're staying here?" she asked, her eyes sliding over my tools in the stacked lumber. "I'm working here," I said. "Same thing." "Not where I'm from," she muttered. Her gaze shifted to the open pump closet and the wet crescent on the floor, where the pump had spit water and then quit. Her face stayed hard, but I caught a small flicker of worry. "The well works?" she asked. "It will," I said. "How soon?" "When I'm done." The SUV door opened down the drive. A man got out in a suit coat and dress shoes. No hat, no sense. His phone was already in his hand, like it could scare the ice away. Elena's shoulders went tight. "Who's that?" I asked. "My father's insurance guy," she said, "or his lawyer. Depends on the day. He didn't make it 3 steps before he slipped on the ice. He caught himself on the fender of my truck and glared at me like I had moved the whole mountain just to annoy him." I walked down the steps to meet him. "Denton, Mr. Corvus's office," he said, holding out a hand. I didn't take it. "Road's bad. You shouldn't be here." He looked over my shoulder at Elena. "She shouldn't either," he said. "I'm fine, Denton," Elena called from the porch, voice sharp. He ignored her. "My job is to document the condition of the property. Liability if she gets hurt." "You can film it from the county road," I said calmly. His eyes narrowed. "This is trust property." "And this is my work site," I said. "You want to argue? Call the trustee." Otherwise, walk back down the drive before you break your hip." Just then, a battered Ford rumbled up behind him. Sam, my foreman, with a chainsaw on the back and snow on the hood. He rolled down his window and looked Denton over like he was a broken fence post. "Beck, who's the city fellow?" Sam asked. "Lost, maybe," I said. Sam sniffed the air. "Storm's coming. He'll learn." Denton's face went pink. He slid back down the drive. The SUV turned and left. Elena watched them go. Her chin stayed high. Her eyes didn't. Sam pulled up to the porch, tipped his hat. "Ma'am." "Hi," she answered, tight. Sam's gaze flicked from her duffel to the empty drive. He leaned close to me and muttered, "That trouble?" "Maybe," I said. "Smells like money," he said. "Money always brings trouble." "I heard that," Elena called. Sam shrugged. "Then you heard right." By afternoon, freezing rain turned to wet snow. The sky went the color of a bruise. The trees creaked when the wind leaned on them. I was in the pump closet with a headlamp on, sleeves rolled, arms wet, listening to the motor strain. The pressure gauge trembled like a nervous eye. Elena stood in the doorway, arms crossed, pretending she wasn't cold. The cabin was barely warmer than outside. I didn't trust the old stove until I fixed the chimney. "You said the water would be back," she said. "I said it will," I answered. "That's not an answer." I cut the breaker. The pump went quiet. Outside, the storm growled a little louder. I pulled the suction line apart. The smell of iron and old algae hit me. The black gasket in my fingers was dry and cracked. "This is why you don't have water," I said, holding it up. "See that crack?" She stepped closer to see, almost forgetting to be mad. I caught a faint citrus scent under the cold and pine. "That tiny thing?" she asked. "It's not tiny when it's between you and drinking," I said. "Can you fix it?" Her voice was softer. "I can, but I need parts." "Then order them." "Road's closing," I said. "Trucks won't make it up here for days." Quote. She looked at the empty shelves. Her eyes shined for a second, and she turned her head so I wouldn't see it. "I can't stay here without water," she said. "You can," I said. "You just don't want to." Her eyes snapped back to mine. "You don't know what I want." "I know you want this fixed," I said, holding up the gasket. "So do I. We'll do it the ugly way." Her brow pulled in. "What's the ugly way?" I pulled a strip of old leather from my bag and a tube of sealant. "We make our own." By nightfall, the cabin smelled like glue and wet wool. Snow slapped the windows. Sam had taken the truck back down before the road turned to glass. The SUV was gone. No more suits. No more cameras. Elena watched as I cut the leather and punched holes. Her elbows were tight to her sides. Her hands shook just a little. "You do this for a living?" she asked. "I do what needs doing," I said. "That's not a living." I set the homemade gasket, tightened the bolts, and flipped the breaker. The pump groaned, spat, then caught. The needle climbed. Water rushed through the pipes. Elena walked to the sink and turned the tap. Rust, then clear. She held her hands under the stream like she didn't trust it. Her eyes closed for half a second. I saw her shoulders drop. "You're welcome," I said. "How much?" she asked. "For what?" "For tonight, for the water." "You're paying through the trust. That covers this." "That's not tonight," she insisted. She reached into her duffel and pulled out a small box. Inside was a heavy watch that probably cost more than my truck. "Take this," she said. "It's mine, no strings." I didn't touch it. "I don't need favors," I said. "I need a bill," she said, voice tight. "Materials, labor, all of it." I watched her hands shake, then I nodded once. "Fine," I said. "You want to pay? Then you work." Her eyes flashed. "Excuse me?" "You earned your way into the job. You don't stand in my doorway and throw jewelry at problems." I pointed at the dust mask on a nail. "You sand logs tomorrow. You wear that. You do it my way." She stared at me like no one had talked to her like that in years. Then a small, sharp smile touched her mouth. "Deal," she said. And I had no idea then that saying deal to me on that ridge would change both of our lives. The next morning I found out she meant it when she said deal. First light on the ridge is always quiet. The snow glows blue, the air bites your lungs. I stepped onto the porch with my coffee, and there she was already, standing by the stacked logs. She wore my old work boots, at least one size too big. The dust mask hung loose around her neck. Her hair was tucked under her cap. The duffel sat by the wall like it had given up trying to follow her. "You're early," I said. "You said sand logs," she answered. "You didn't give me a time." I handed her a pair of gloves. "Then we start now." I showed her how to brace the beam, how to hold the sander so it would not kick. "Don't fight it," I said. "Let the tool work. Just guide it." "I'm not fighting it," she snapped. I raised a brow. She adjusted her grip and tried again. This time the belt stayed steady. Thin curls of old gray wood fell around her boots. She watched them like she had never seen dirt she earned with her own hands. By mid-morning, her shoulders shook from the weight of the sander. Dust stuck to her lashes and to the line of sweat at her hairline. She did not complain. When her hands blistered, she wrapped them in tape and kept going. Finally, I pulled the sander from her hands. "Enough," I said. "I can keep working," she shot back. "I know," I said. "That's why I'm stopping you. I still need you useful tomorrow." She tried to hide the small look of relief on her face. I pretended not to see it. Inside, the cabin smelled like fresh pine and weak coffee. I put a pan on the little propane stove and heated soup straight from the can. It was thick and salty. It was hot. That was enough. She sat at the table with her elbows close to her sides, like she was trying not to take up space. When I set the bowl in front of her, she stared at it. "I didn't pay for this," she said. "You will," I said, "in labor." Her mouth twitched. "That how it works up here?" "That's how it works with me." She took a spoonful. The first bite burned her tongue. I saw it in the way she flinched and swallowed anyway. "It's terrible," she said. "Calories," I answered. She let out a soft sound that might have been a laugh. After we ate, I went back to the pump closet. She went to her duffel and pulled out a laptop. She set it on the table, turned on a cheap little hotspot from her bag. 1 bar, then none, then one again. She opened files, spreadsheets, contracts. Her shoulders tightened in a way sanding had not caused. "You working?" I asked. "Apparently my lesson does not pause email," she said. Her fingers flew over the keys. The business world had followed her all the way up the ridge. It did not care about snow or storms. Toward evening, the light outside changed. Up here, you can feel when a storm is coming before you see it. The sky went flat and gray. The air felt heavy. "Storm's coming," I said. She paused, then turned her head and listened. The wind in the trees had a deeper push now. "We'll be fine," she said. "You will," I said, "if you listen." Quote. We checked the generator, topped off the fuel, cleared snow away from the vents. I checked the stovepipe and the draft. It pulled clean for now. By dark, the snow hit hard. It didn't float down sweet and slow. It slammed sideways against the cabin. The walls hummed with wind. "You lived like this long?" she asked. "Long enough," I said. She stood at the window and watched the whiteout. In the glass, her reflection looked different. Younger without makeup. Older from being tired. More honest. "My father used to bring us here," she said, "when I was little." "Before he locked it in the trust?" I asked. Her jaw tightened. "Before he decided everything is a tool," she said. "Land, money, people. Including you, I thought, but I didn't say it." Later that night, I stretched out in my sleeping bag in the mudroom, boots still on. I never sleep deep in bad storms. Old houses talk when they are under stress. You have to listen. Somewhere between one heartbeat and the next, I woke up with a wrong feeling. The air felt heavy and stale. My head throbbed behind my eyes. My tongue felt thick. The smell in the room wasn't just wood smoke. It was dull and bitter. "Damn," I muttered. I shoved out of the sleeping bag and pushed into the main room. The stove glowed, but the smoke wasn't going up the pipe. A thin gray haze floated in the air. The wind had flipped the draft. "Elena!" I called. No answer. Cold fear hit my chest. I crossed the main room in 3 steps and slammed my shoulder into the bedroom door. It flew open. She sat on the floor next to the cold stone hearth. Her back was against the wall, knees pulled to her chest. Her laptop glowed on the bed beside her. A spreadsheet filled half the screen. The other half showed an email draft. Her eyes were glassy, not really focused. "Helena?" I said. She turned her head slowly like it was too heavy. "I'm fine," she whispered. She was pale. Her lips were slightly parted. Her breaths were fast but shallow. "Fine" was a lie. I grabbed her wrist. Her pulse fluttered fast and weak under my fingers. "Up," I said. She tried to stand. Her legs gave out. I wrapped an arm around her waist and hauled her up against me. Her hands grabbed my sleeve and then fisted in it. "Don't," she started. "I've got you," I said. The main room was hazy with faint smoke. My eyes burned. My head pounded. I yanked the front door open with my free hand. The wind punched us in the chest. Snow swirled into the cabin, sharp and cold. I pulled her out onto the porch. "Sit," I said. She slid down with her back against a porch post, still holding my sleeve like she wasn't sure the ground was solid yet. The cold hit her face and she sucked in a deep breath like she'd been underwater. "What about you?" she asked, voice thin. "I've got things to fix," I said. I went back inside, lungs burning. I shut down the stove and opened the flue wide. I cracked windows, even with the storm beating on them. The room started to clear, but my head felt thick. I dug into my tool bag, found the carbon monoxide detector I hadn't mounted yet, slammed batteries in, and held it up. The alarm screamed, high, sharp, angry. It confirmed what my body already knew. Outside, the generator coughed. If it died, the pump would freeze, the pipes would burst, and everything we had fixed would crack. I pulled on my coat and stepped back into the storm. The generator was half buried behind a drift. Snow clogged the intake. The exhaust blew straight toward the cabin. The wind had shifted. That was pushing exhaust back at us. My fingers went numb as I cleared snow from the vents. I grabbed the frame and dragged the generator 2-3 feet, turning it so the exhaust shot away from the house. I stacked old plywood and logs as a windbreak. The wind tried to rip every breath out of my chest. I pulled the starter cord. The motor fought me. Once, twice, 3 times. "Come on," I growled. On the 4th pull, it roared back to life. By the time I stumbled back onto the porch, the world felt slightly tilted. My nose stung. When I wiped it, my glove came away red. Elena watched me from where she sat against the post. Her eyes were clearer now, cheeks flushed from the cold. "You're bleeding," she said. "It's the cold," I answered. "Your hands," she added. I glanced down. The skin on my knuckles was split open, where the cold and the work had torn old scars, fresh blood mixed with dirt. "Occupational hazard," I said. I wanted to send her inside, but the cabin still needed to breathe. The front door stayed open a crack. The window stayed lifted an inch. The warmth leaked out, but the bad air went with it. I sat down beside her, leaving a few inches of space between us. Snow blew sideways beyond the small circle of porch light. The storm roared. The generator hummed. For a while, we just sat there and listened. "I didn't notice the smell," she said quietly. "I was reading the settlement terms. I thought my headache was stress." "It was the gas," I said. "Your body was trying to tell you to get out." She looked at me, eyes serious. "You did," she said. "You got me out." I shrugged. "The storm does half the teaching up here. I just listen." Her hand slipped from my sleeve to my forearm. Her fingers were light, but steady. It was the first time she touched me without bracing herself or fighting me. "Thank you," she said. Just that. No edge, no control, just real, clean thanks. We stayed out there until my teeth started to knock. When the alarm inside finally went quiet, I shut the door and pulled the windows closed. The cabin filled back up with the softer sound of wind outside and the steady hum of the generator. We moved our bedding closer to the safest wall, away from the stove. Just in case. She wrapped her hands around a mug of hot tea and watched me check the pipe again. "You teach like you're angry," she said. "I teach like I want you alive," I answered. Her eyes held mine longer than they needed to. "Then keep teaching," she said softly. The storm kept pounding the ridge, but something between us shifted that night. She wasn't just the rich woman sent here to learn a lesson anymore. And I wasn't just the guy paid to keep her walls from falling down. We were two people stuck on a mountain, sharing air, work, and now a near miss with death. And I had the feeling the lesson her family wanted her to learn was not the one she was actually learning. The days after the storm settled into a hard kind of rhythm. In the mornings, I woke before dawn, checked the generator, the pump, and the stovepipe. I walked the roofline, listening for wrong sounds in the old wood. The mountain always tells you what it plans to break next if you listen close enough. Then we worked. Elena sanded logs until the old gray skin came off, and the fresh wood showed clean and bright. She wore the dust mask now without me reminding her. Her hands were wrapped where the blisters had split. She moved slower than that first day, but she did not quit. "You can stop," I told her once, when I saw her shoulders shake. "So can you," she said. Fair. At lunch, I heated whatever we had. Soup, eggs, toast that was more like warm cardboard. It was fuel. That was enough. "What do I owe you for today?" she asked one afternoon, wiping dust off her face with the back of her hand. "You already paid." I said, "You did your hours. I used your water, your fuel, your food." "You used my sander too," I said. "Call it even." Her mouth twitched, but she let it go. At night, the cabin changed. The tools went quiet. The air warmed up. The mountain wind turned into background noise. That was when her other life came out. She sat at the table with her laptop and that cheap little hotspot blinking next to it. The weak signal came and went. One bar, then none, then one again. Somehow it was just enough. The light from the screen lit her face in a way the fire never did. She looked younger and older at the same time, less polished, more real, tired in a way sanding could not explain. She pulled up files, contracts, spreadsheets. She took notes on a yellow pad with neat, tight writing. I walked past once and saw the top of a document. Term sheet, Corvus/Global Freight Merger. It read, "You're working on your father's deal up here?" I asked. "I'm working on his trap," she said calmly. "He used the trust as collateral without telling anyone. He parked risk where he thought no one would look." "Here," I said. "Here," she agreed. "In this cabin I supposedly came to learn a lesson." Quote, "I thought they dumped you here to teach you humility," I said. "He sent me here to shut me up," she said. "I don't shut up well." One clear afternoon between snowbursts, we climbed up on the roof to break ice off the gutters. The sky was hard and blue. The air felt sharp in my lungs. She moved more sure-footed now, boots set wide, crowbar steady. I heard engines before I saw them. Not Sam's truck. Too smooth. Two new pickups crawled up the road and stopped at the bottom of the drive. Two men got out. Hard hats, company jackets, clipboards. One of them had a small camera on his chest. Elena went still beside me. Her fingers tightened around the bar. "Who are they?" I asked. "Compliance," she said. "Or my father's messengers. Same thing." I climbed down the ladder before they reached the steps. The snow crunched under my boots as I met them halfway. "Can I help you?" I asked. "Beck Blackwood?" Clipboard said. "That's me. We're here on behalf of Corvus Global, site inspection, property risk assessment." He flashed a folder like a badge. "This is a contracted restoration site," I said. "You need permission from me or the trustee." The man with the camera smiled like he practiced it in a mirror. "We don't," he said. "This is trust property." "And I'm under contract with that trust," I said, "which means this is my work site. You step on my porch without permission, you become my problem." Clipboard's eyes went over my shoulder. "Miss Corvus," he called. "We just need a few minutes." Standard safety protocol. Elena stepped to the edge of the porch roof, crowbar still in her hand. The wind pulled at her flannel. "Standard for who?" she asked. "For the family." "For your safety," he said. "My safety," she repeated. There was a quiet anger in her voice that I had learned to respect. I shifted just enough that my shoulder blocked the bottom step. "Camera off," I said to the man in the jacket. He smiled wider. "Or what?" "Or you leave," I said. Clipboard's jaw tightened. "Mr. Blackwood, we can make this difficult. Your permits, your contracts." Quote. I pulled my phone out and took a clear picture of both trucks and both faces. "And I could make it criminal trespass," I said. "I have your plates and your faces. Next is the sheriff." They looked at the phone like it had more weight than my words. Behind me, Elena spoke, voice sharp and cold. "And if you're here for Corvus Global," she said, "tell my father something for me." Clipboard blinked. "What would you like us to tell him?" "Tell him I've been reading his merger documents," she said. "I'm not learning his lesson. I'm learning his math." The wind gusted, snow swirled. Nobody spoke for a long heartbeat. The man with the camera lost his smile. "We'll reschedule," Clipboard said finally. "No," I said, "you'll leave." This time they did, slowly, watching us like they still expected us to crack. But they left. When the trucks disappeared around the bend, I looked back up. Elena was still standing on the roof. Her shoulders were tight. Her eyes were fixed on the empty road. "You didn't have to do that," she said as I climbed up. "I did," I said. "They weren't here to protect you. They were here so you'd feel alone." She looked down at me. Something in her face sharpened and softened at the same time. "I'm not alone," she said quietly. 2 nights later, the next big storm came. Not wild and fast like the last one, but slow and heavy. The snow just kept falling. The road closed again. Sam called over the radio to say no one was going anywhere for a while. We worked anyway. The roof, the pump, the stove, the generator. The CO detector stayed silent. I checked it twice. At night, the cabin shrank around us but felt safer than before. "What are you doing exactly?" I asked one evening, nodding at her screen. "Audit," she said. "Of what?" "My father's deal. He hid risk in the trust without telling anyone. The lenders won't like that." She opened a new document. I saw the title at the top. Injunction draft. Corvus Trust versus Corvus Global. "You're going to court?" I asked. "I'm giving our attorney everything he needs," she said. "Board minutes, drafts, side letters, side deals. If my father wants to play with the trust, he can answer to a judge." She circled 3 numbers on her legal pad over and over. "What are those?" I asked. "Debt covenants," she said. "He breaks these, the lenders panic. He can't risk that. So he gives me what I want, or I pull the alarm." "What do you want?" I asked. She looked up at me. Her eyes were dark and clear. "Clean title," she said. "This cabin in my name. No trust, no leash." The stove popped. Snow hit the window in soft thumps. The mountain listened. "You're going to beat him with his own math," I said. "Yes," she said. "And he's going to hate that I learned it up here in boots that don't fit me." I didn't smile, but something warm settled in my chest that had nothing to do with the fire. Later, after another slow upload and a long email, she closed the laptop and just sat there, hands flat on the table. "What?" I asked. She shrugged one shoulder. "I keep thinking about what happens after," she said. "After what?" I asked. "After I win," she said, like there was no other option. "Then you go back," I said. "Big office, city lights, good coffee." She studied my face. "And you?" she asked. "I keep working," I said. "Cabins don't fix themselves." "You turned down that Montana contract," she said. "Sam told me it was real money." "I've had real money," I said. "It leaves." "So what are you building?" she asked. "Something that stays," I said. "Something I can point at and say, I did that with my hands." Her eyes dropped to my hands. The skin was split and rough. Old scars crossed my knuckles, like faded lines on a map. "You're not doing all this because you want me," she said quietly. I stepped closer, slow enough for her to step back if she wanted. She didn't. I do want you, I said. My voice came out rough. But I'm not here to buy you or save you. You're already saving yourself. Her breath caught. Her fingers curled around the edge of the table like she needed something to hold. Then why are you here? She asked. Because when you got out of that SUV, you looked like someone who has never been allowed to stand on her own ground, I said, and I wanted to see what you'd build if it was actually yours. Silence stretched between us, full and tight. She stood slowly. We were close now. I could see the small freckles on her cheek, the tired lines at the corner of her eyes. Her gaze slid to my mouth, then back up. Her hand lifted, hesitated, then settled lightly at my collar. My father is going to show up, she said. I don't waste time hating men who don't show up, I answered. He will, she said, one way or another. I nodded once. Let him. She studied my face one last time, like she was checking the frame before trusting the roof. Tomorrow, she said softly. If the road opens, the plow brings mail. If he signed what I demanded, my freedom is in that bag. And if he didn't? I asked, her jaw set. Then I burn his deal to the ground, she said. The storm moved down the valley, but inside the cabin the air felt tight and wired. Whatever came in that canvas mailbag wasn't just going to change her life. It was going to change mine, too. Sam showed up the next morning the way weather moves in on the ridge. No warning, just the low rumble of his truck and the flash of his blue parka between the trees. He stomped up onto the porch with snow on his shoulders and a canvas mailbag in one hand, thermos in the other. Road's open for now, he said. Figured I'd bring the fun stuff before it shuts again. He dropped the bag on the table. The weight of it thunked through the wood. Envelopes shifted inside. Elena stood in the doorway with a mug in her hand. Her fingers tightened around the handle until her knuckles went white. That for me? She asked. 2 with your name, 1 with his, Sam said, nodding at me. County stuff. No ticking sounds. You're safe. He winked and went back outside, which was his way of giving us space. I stood on the other side of the table. The room felt smaller. Which one is it? I asked. She dug through the bag. Bills. Flyers. A thin envelope from a bank. Then she found it. A thick, overnight envelope with a big, firm name in the corner, and her father's world printed in neat letters. She set it on the table like it might jump. You want me to open it? I asked. No, she said. I heard the crack in her voice. If it is bad, I want to be mad at the right person. She slid her thumb under the seal and tore it clean. A stack of papers slid out. The first page was a letter. She skimmed it fast, eyes moving like they were pulling data, not words. Her breath hitched. What? I asked. She handed me the letter and tapped one line with her finger. I read it. Enclosed, please find the executed deed transferring full title of Blackwood Ridge, parcel 47B, to Elena Corvus, free and clear of trust encumbrances. Settlement terms, as agreed. I flipped to the next page. Deed, her name, no trust, no board, no leash. It's done, I said. She did not move. Her hands were flat on the table. Elena, I said softer, you did it. She leaned over the papers and closed her eyes. For a second, I thought she might cry. Her shoulders shook once, then settled. When she opened her eyes, they were wet and bright at the same time. He signed, she said. He gave up the cabin. He released the trust from the deal. He actually did it. Quote, because you made not doing it worse, I said. You found where it would hurt. A weak laugh slipped out of her. Debt covenants, she said. Regulatory risk. Public filings. I spoke his language for once. She straightened. Her hand lay flat on the deed. This is mine now, she said. On paper. In fact, I said, and in wood. Do not forget the wood. She looked around the cabin, at the fresh sanded logs, the patched floor, the stove we almost died fixing, the pump that groaned but worked. This place was supposed to be my punishment, she said. My family dumped me here to learn a lesson. I looked at her, at the deed, at the cabin that had become something else right in front of us. Then let me, I said. Her eyes snapped back to mine. Let you what? She asked. Let me be the one who teaches you the right lesson, I said. That you are not something they ship up a mountain to fix. That you can build your own ground and decide who stands on it. She stared at me for a beat that felt longer than it was. The fire popped softly behind us. "What about you?" she asked. "You got your own envelope." I pulled my envelope from the pile. County seal. Thin paper. I tore it open. "Final inspection passed," it said. "Permit closed. Occupancy approved. Contractor of record. Blackwood Restoration." Something settled in my chest, like a beam dropping onto posts. "Congratulations," she said quietly. "Yeah," I said. "Guess I am real now." She smiled, a small, private thing. "You were real the first time you yelled at the generator," she said. We stood there for a moment, both holding proof. Her deed, my permit, 2 different doors opening at the same time. "Okay," she said at last. "Then we need to talk about the next part." "What next part?" I asked. She went to her duffel and pulled out a blue folder. The edges were worn, like she had opened it 100 times. She set it between us and flipped it open. Blackwood Restorations, the cover page said. Inside were typed pages, roles, liability, insurance, profit split, client terms. It was clean and focused, thought through. "You drafted this up here?" I asked. "Up here," she said, "between sanding and almost dying in a pump closet." "You cried in the pump closet?" I asked. "Once," she said. "It echoed. It was terrible. I recommend the woods instead." Her mouth twitched. Then she tapped a paragraph about ownership. 50-50, she said. "I handle the money, the contracts, the clients who send compliance guys instead of being honest. You handle the work, the crews, the wood, the things that break at 3 in the morning. We pick the jobs. We say yes or no, no trust. No board. No father." "The cabin?" I asked. She lifted her gaze. "The cabin is the office," she said, "and home, if you want it." The word home hit harder than I like to admit. "You sure you want me as a partner?" I asked. "You have seen me yell at pipes. I have also seen you drag a generator in a blizzard so I would not die in my sleep," she said. "I trust that man more than anyone at a board table." She nudged a pen toward me. "This is not charity," she said. "I want your name on the work, Beck. I want clients to know if they hire us, they get you, not some polished fake." Quote. My hand closed around the pen. It felt heavier than plastic. I signed under my printed name, no flourish, just ink. She signed under hers. Her signature looked like a small mountain range, sharp and sure. "Partners," she said. "Partners," I said. She closed the folder and set it aside like it was decided, not fragile. Then she stepped around the table. The air shifted. She stopped in front of me, closer than client space. Her hand lifted. Her fingers brushed the line of my jaw, rough skin and rougher beard. "You are not just my contractor anymore," she said. "You know that, right?" "I figured," I said. "Most contractors do not get this many death stares from compliance." She gave a soft breath that almost turned into a laugh. Then her eyes turned serious again. "I do not know how to do this," she admitted. "Not business, not leverage. This." She made a small motion in the space between us. "Same way you did the pump," I said. "Ugly and honest, one piece at a time." "You make romance sound like plumbing," she said. "I make it sound like work," I answered. "The kind that is worth it." She took a breath like someone about to jump into cold water. "Then here," she said. "This is my first piece." Her hand slid to the back of my neck. She pulled me down and kissed me. It was not careful. It was slow and sure and deep. No panic. No storm slamming the walls. No camera at the bottom of the drive. Just her and the smell of pine and coffee and everything we had been holding back. My hands went to her waist. Solid grip. Not to keep her in place, but to show I was not going anywhere unless she told me to. She did not. When we finally broke apart, her forehead rested against mine. Her breath was warm on my mouth. "My family dumped me here to learn a lesson," she said again. Her voice was softer now. "Yeah," I said. "And you did." "What lesson is that?" she whispered. that you can build your own life out of old wood and bad paperwork," I said. "And you do not have to do it alone." Her hands fisted in my shirt. Her laugh broke into something that might have been a sob if she had let it. "Stay," she said. "Already here," I answered. Later, when Sam came back in with snow on his boots and a question about the ridge, he found us at the table. Papers spread out, her deed, my permit, our partnership contract, coffee mugs, my tool belt hanging off a chair. Her laptop closed for once. He took one look at our faces and at the way her hand rested on my forearm. He shook his head with a slow grin. "Knew this place was worth saving," he said. I glanced at Elena. Her ring finger was bare, but her hand was steady. "Yeah," I said. "It is." Outside, the snow on the roof settled. The cabin creaked once and then grew quiet, like it had decided to hold.